We like to believe we are rational. This book shows that most of our decisions are made before we even realize it. Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman is a landmark work in behavioral psychology and economics that explains how humans make judgments and decisions. Kahneman introduces a simple but powerful framework. The mind operates using two distinct systems of thinking, two systems of thought. Kahneman divides thinking into two systems. System 1, fast thinking, automatic and intuitive, effortless, driven by emotion and experience, responsible for most everyday decisions. System 2, slow thinking, deliberate and analytical, requires effort, handles logic, calculation, and reasoning, easily fatigued. The problem is that System 1 often dominates, and it is frequently wrong. Why we make systematic errors? Our mistakes are not random. They arise from cognitive biases built into fast thinking. Common examples include confirmation bias, availability heuristic, representativeness heuristic, overconfidence bias. These shortcuts help us act quickly, but at the cost of accuracy. Experts are not immune. Even trained professionals fall prey to these biases. Studies show that in areas like finance, economics, and forecasting, expert intuition often performs only slightly better than chance. Experience does not eliminate bias. Loss, aversion, and framing. One of Kahneman's most important findings is loss aversion. People feel losses far more intensely than gains of equal size. This leads to risk-averse or risk-seeking behavior depending on how choices are framed. How a decision is presented can matter more than the facts themselves. Learning when to slow down. Kahneman does not argue against intuition altogether. Instead, he teaches us when to question it. Slow thinking should be activated when decisions are high stakes, probabilities matter, emotions run high. The book's core lesson is clear. We are less rational than we think, but awareness of our flaws allows us to make better choices. Next, we'll explore how the fast and slow thinking framework applies to investing, leadership, and everyday decision-making.
Okay, today we are diving deep into a book that honestly changed the way we think about thinking itself. It's Thinking Fast and Slow by the Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman. This book, seriously, it's like a user's manual for the human brain, pulling back the curtain on why we make the choices we do. So let's get right into it. So let me just ask you, right off the bat, do you think you're a rational person? Now, you might have a quick answer, but I have a feeling that after we go through this, you might not be so sure. See, Kahneman's whole thing is showing us that even our most careful decisions are often being run by these hidden forces we're not even aware of.
You know, for the longest time, a lot of economic theory was based on this idea of the econ, this imaginary person who is perfectly logical, always makes the best choice, and is never, ever emotional. But Kahneman came along and said, nope, that's not us. We're not econs, we're humans. We go with our gut, we get swayed by feelings, and yeah, we make a lot of predictable mistakes. And that simple idea, it pretty much created the entire field of behavioral economics.
So, how does this all work? Well, Kahneman gives us this fantastic way to think about it. Imagine your mind as a stage, and there's a drama constantly playing out with two main characters who are basically running the show inside your head. Let's go meet them. First up, we have System 1. This is the hero of our story. It's fast, it's intuitive, it's completely automatic. It's the part of you that knows 2 + 2 = 4 without thinking, or can instantly tell when someone's annoyed just by the look on their face. Then you've got System 2. Think of it as the careful but kind of lazy supervisor. It's slow, it's deliberate, and it's the one that handles the really tough mental work. But here's the crucial part. System 2 is lazy. It takes a lot of effort to get it going, so most of the time it just signs off on whatever gut feelings System 1 comes up with. Let's try a little experiment right now. What's 17 times 24? Instantly, your System 1 knew that's a multiplication problem, and you probably had a vague sense of the answer, maybe somewhere in the hundreds. But to actually get the right answer, which is 408, by the way, you have to consciously wake up your lazy System 2. You can almost feel that mental effort, right? That little bit of strain. That's the difference between the two systems right there. And this whole idea of having two personalities in our brain just resonates with so many people. I mean, we've all felt that, haven't we? That little internal battle between a gut feeling and a more logical, reasoned thought.
Okay, so this is where it gets really, really interesting, and also where it all starts to go a bit wrong. You see, System 1 gets its incredible speed by using mental shortcuts. But those shortcuts, they create what Kahneman calls cognitive illusions. these predictable, systematic errors in our judgment.
So one of the biggest mental tricks our brain plays on us is something Kahneman calls WSCIT. It stands for what you see is all there is. Basically, your System 1 takes whatever limited information is right in front of it and constructs the best, most coherent story it possibly can. It doesn't pause to ask, hey, wait a minute, is there important stuff I'm not seeing here? And this is why even a tiny bit of evidence can make us feel incredibly confident about a story we've just made up.
And that leads us straight into something called the narrative fallacy. Just think about the story everyone tells about Google's success. Looking back, we create this neat, clean story about pure genius and perfect vision. But that story completely brushes over the thousands of random events, the close calls, and the huge role that just plain luck played. Our brains just love a good story about skill way more than the messy, complicated truth about chance.
Oh, this is another classic trick. When you're faced with a really hard question like, what is the statistical probability of this happening? Your super helpful System 1 does a little bait and switch. It secretly swaps out that hard question for a much easier one, like, does this story feel believable? And then you answer the easy question with total confidence, without even realizing a switch was made.
Okay, take a look at this famous example. Which of these two events do you think is more probable? I'll give you a second. Now, most people immediately go for option 2. Why? Because the detail about the California earthquake makes the story so much more vivid, more plausible. But logically, that's actually impossible. A flood caused by an earthquake in California is just one specific subset of all massive floods in North America. By adding that detail, the story becomes more convincing, but it becomes statistically less likely. That is a perfect example of substitution in action. And look, this stuff isn't just about fun brain teasers. These cognitive biases have huge, profound impacts on, well, everything, from what you put in your shopping cart to how you actually remember your own life. Let's look at some real-world consequences.
Oh yeah, marketers are total pros at exploiting this. Think about it. That flashy, funny, emotional Super Bowl ad, that's aimed squarely at your System 1. But that super detailed spec sheet you pour over before buying a new car, that's designed to satisfy your logical, analytical System 2. These companies know exactly which of your two minds they need to talk to, and when.
Kahneman pushes this idea of duality even further with one of his most mind-bending concepts, the two selves. He says there's an experiencing self, which is the part of you that lives life from moment to moment, feeling everything as it happens. But then there's the remembering self, and that's the storyteller, the one that looks back and creates the narrative of your life. And here's the kicker. They value things in completely different ways.
So check out this incredible experiment. You've got two patients, and they both have to go through a painful medical procedure. You can see their pain levels on the charts. Patient A has a shorter procedure, but it ends right at a moment of really intense pain. Patient B's procedure is much, much longer, but you can see the pain slowly tapers off at the end. So the question is, who actually suffered more?
Believe it or not, the answer is that when you ask them later, most people report that patient A had the worst experience. Now, why would that be? It's because the remembering self, the one who decides if you'll ever do that again, it doesn't care about the total amount or duration of pain. Nope, it cares about something else entirely.
And this brings us to the peak end rule. Our memory of an event, whether it's a great vacation or a terrible dentist appointment, it isn't some kind of average of the whole thing. It's almost entirely dominated by just two moments: the most intense moment, the peak, and how it felt at the very end. The total duration of the experience, our brain basically throws that information away. It's called duration neglect. Patient A's memory is worse just because their procedure ended on that awful high point, even though patient B was in pain for way longer overall. Wild, right?
So, after all of this, what's the big idea we should be walking away with? It's that we have to fundamentally change how we think about human nature. We aren't these perfectly rational econs that old-school economics textbooks talked about. We are humans with all our beautiful flaws.
This table really just nails the difference. Econs are supposed to be purely logical. We humans run on gut feelings. Econs use all the available info. We humans fall for what you see is all there is. Econs have perfect self-control. We have a lazy System 2 that would rather just go with the flow. And you know what? This isn't some bug to be fixed. It's a feature. It's just how our brains are wired.
So here's the most important takeaway from the whole book. You can't just turn off System 1. It's impossible. You can't just decide to not have these biases. Even Kahneman himself admitted he falls for them all the time.
The real goal isn't to become perfectly rational. The goal is to get better at recognizing those key moments when you really need to stop, take a breath, and deliberately fire up your slow analytical system too.
And all of this leaves us with one last, pretty challenging question to chew on. We know our intuition is incredibly powerful, but now we also know it can be a total illusion, a trick our mind plays on us. So, if your gut feeling is often wrong, what are you supposed to trust? It's definitely something to think about.